Question 23. He asked, in your previous discussions, you briefly outlined several points regarding the origin of Satan, and at times, attributed certain recurring human behaviors and misdeeds to his influence. We now hope you will provide a more detailed clarification of this subject, for nearly all moral conflicts arise either from unchecked desire or from the strategic misguidance and operations of Satan. Answer. To properly address this inquiry, it is first necessary to affirm the existence and reality of Satan, and then to explain why human consciousness, throughout history, has come to accept the presence of such a being. From the earliest stages of humanity's appearance, and particularly in the divine scriptures, Satan has been thoroughly introduced, along with the many traps, manipulations, and psychological tactics he employs. Each human being, to some degree, comes to recognize him through the destructive traits and tendencies he incites within. Indeed, this accursed one has, in one way or another, torn through the spiritual veil of every human soul. As a result, the clarity of faith, the inner potential for divine recognition, and the soul's proximity to the Creator of all realms have been darkened. In collaboration with the ego, Satan has stripped these luminous qualities away, ultimately casting the individual into the abyss of delusion, estrangement, and rebellion against the divine. As for how this is achieved, it naturally varies with the psychological and circumstantial conditions of each individual. Given the vast spectrum of human dispositions and external influences, no singular pattern can capture the entirety of this infiltration. Therefore, we will momentarily set aside further detail on this issue, with the intention of addressing it more fully later in this work. In summary, Satan's ploys and deceptions differ depending on the timing, personality, level of awareness, role in society, and many other conditions. This complexity has made it impossible even for the most spiritually refined and socially experienced individuals to systematically classify his operations. This is why the eternal warning, "Be vigilant," remains vital for all who possess conscience and clarity, urging them to pursue the most effective means of resistance. One of the primary reasons this web of spiritual sabotage remains so difficult to decipher is because those who fall into it often believe their wrongful actions to be entirely of their own volition. Yet afterward, they are gripped by remorse, confusion, and inner shame. This raises a critical question. If the individual had fully intended to commit that prohibited act, considering it beneficial, meaningful, or even righteous, then why does regret, anxiety, and moral disquiet emerge afterward? This contradiction reveals that, at the moment of action, they were overtaken by another internal state, a powerful psychological sway that rendered resistance nearly impossible. It resembles the condition of an intoxicated person who, in a state of stupor, engages in inappropriate or humiliating behavior, but upon sobering, becomes overwhelmed by regret and disbelief. Even wise and dignified people later ask themselves, how could I have done something so disgraceful, so irrational, so beneath me? Those who fall into morally destructive behavior often do so under the illusion of justification, until the fit of rage subsides or Satan's overpowering grip is released. Then, they vehemently disavow their actions, repenting with sincerity and confusion. This leads us to ask, where does this inner domination originate? How does it penetrate even the hearts of intelligent, ethical, spiritually grounded individuals, leading them into transgression, abuse, or self-sabotage? Often, there is no external necessity or pressure. Yet, when the moment arrives, they act recklessly, sometimes deploying their very intellect to architect acts of wrongdoing, strategies so cunning they would puzzle even the most discerning minds. Great thinkers and philosophers, too, have attempted to dissect this dilemma. Yet many of their explanations rest upon surface assumptions, unmoored from spiritual insight. As such, instead of unraveling the knots, they have complicated them, planting seeds of further confusion and ethical paralysis. This is due in part to the fact that Satan's premeditated suggestions, coded with egoic desire and glamorized at the moment of action, are both intricately diverse and psychologically recursive. Their repetition and sophistication are so draining that even those with penetrating minds grow weary trying to track them. Therefore, the spiritual reversals, some of which have already been noted, make successful classification elusive. Because of this, few scholars or reformers have dared to venture deeply into this interior battlefield, where light and darkness clash for dominion. In this treatise, however, the effort has been made to trace the root causes of moral instability, to identify the origin of erratic or shameful conduct, and to explore how one might strengthen their spiritual center, resist unlawful tendencies with awareness, and withdraw from environments that catalyze such behavior. This is how one avoids the collapse of inner integrity and the regret that so often follows heedless action. As we proceed, we will continue to offer further elaboration on these issues. Given the sheer volume of egoic manipulations and satanic tactics, we will instead prioritize uncovering their root mechanisms. By doing so, I hope, with divine assistance, to unveil some of the layers of illusion that this accursed deceiver has cast over centuries, and reveal hidden spiritual truths that have long remained veiled. The foundations of this work rest primarily on Quranic verses and authentic prophetic traditions. In addition, certain experiential unveilings, whether received personally or reported by other spiritual wayfarers, have been incorporated where they shed relevant insight, grounded in both reason and revelation. To the extent that I, Faizani, have been enabled to understand, I have committed these insights to writing and now present them in this treatise to the seekers of truth. It is my sincere hope that others among the spiritually awakened and intellectually discerning will add their voices, eventually compiling a more comprehensive and enduring guide for the restoration of the faithful and the spiritual revival of all human beings walking this earth.